After Blenheim. So, what this poem is all about, if you observe that this is the poem which is a ballad. I hope you all know that what ballad is all about. Um, I can say that what ballad, it's nothing but a short story which is written in the form of poem, right? That's what is the ballad. And this ballad, or called as After Blenheim, um, which is written in the year of 1798 by Robert Southey, that reflects on the consequences of war, and it doesn't directly actually narrate the battle itself, but reveal what it does actually. It reveals its aftermath through the perspective of ordinary people, particularly an old farmer, old Casper, and his grandchildren, right? So this is the poem which is setting in the place called as the site of the Battle of Blenheim in the year of 1704. You can say that. It is a key event in the War of the Spanish Succession, where uh, English-led forces, English-led forces defeated the French and Bavarian armies. Robert Southey's technique of using a conversation between the old farmer and children allows the horror of war to emerge gradually rather than through graphic battle scenes, isn't it? So let's move to um, the old Casper of description of the battle, and also discuss more about it. Like if I talk about old Casper's description of the battle, what we can find out, old Casper explains the battle. You can say that indirectly to his grandchildren when you can say that Peter King discovers something large and round, a skull. So he acknowledges the loss of life, mentioning the many bodies rotting in the sun. The imagery is stark, showing the human cost of the battle in simple, understandable terms, right? So, despite these grim details, or called as serious details, Casper repeatedly calls the event a famous victory. What? A victory famous victory. So it is nothing but a line Robert Southey repeats for emphasis. So even you can also talk about the contrast that held between the horrific consequences and the glorified level of victory that forces readers to question the true purpose and value of war, isn't it? It also shows what? It also shows, you can say that the disconnect between official reports of heroism and the everyday suffering of ordinary people. So, Casper's explanation about the war is what? When asked by the children why the battle was fought, so Casper does not provide a clear political or strategic explanation, right? His explanation is a simple and repetitive that what? It was a famous victory without delving into the region for the conflict, isn't it? So, this is nothing but a kind of a confusion or ambiguity. This ambiguity mirrors the pacifist message of the poem, suggesting that common people may not fully understand the motives of leaders who actually wage wars, right? Who actually wage wars. So even if you talk about the children's perspective, the children notice the what? Notice the horror that little well-being calls it a wicked thing, showing an innocent yet morally perceptive reaction, and their responses emphasize the what? Emphasize the contrast between the glorification of war by adults and the natural sense of what? Natural sense of wrongness felt by children, right? So that's what is called as after Blenheim, but we will discuss details when we go to the poem, and as well as we will look at the each and every details present in the poem. We will also discuss about the poem, and we'll also see that why the poet has given the name called as after Blenheim, right? So um, but if I talk about this poem actually is filled with horror and futility of war, right? So through simple, vivid imagery, you can say that rolling bodies, skulls, the poem emphasizes what the human cost, right? Second, if you talk about that questioning authority and glory, by showing Casper's repeatedly or repeated claim of what? Repeated claim of a famous victory. Saudi, that's what actually Saudi critics the way uh, means the way wars are celebrated despite massive suffering, right? Then the third thing is called as you also find out innocence versus experience, right? The children's naive. Okay. So the children, you can say that the children's naive but honest perspective highlight the absurdity and cruelty of war. When we say absurdity is known as a stupidity and cruelty of war. Then if you talk about that, the fourth one, which is known as a memory and history, memory and history. So I can say that what the poem reflects on how events are remembered and how the glory of a history often covers or overshadows the tragedy that endured by ordinary people, right? So these are the things that you can find out. But if you look at that, the poem after Blenheim, right, and the poet Robert Southey. So what actually you would find out about Robert Southey? So Robert Southey was born in the year of 1774 to 1843. He died. Southey, actually, Southey was, we can say, uh, Southey was independent minded and radical in his youth, opposing harsh discipline like flogging. Second, he is called as he once considered emigrating to America with Coleridge, right? S.T. Coleridge, Samuel Chandler Coleridge, to establish utopian. Utopian is known as a perfect or utopian. Utopian means perfect. So perfect commune, but abandoned the idea. He became known for what? He became known for um, ballads. And he became known for ballads, right? Including, you can also say that historical works and biographies, you can say the life of Nelson, isn't it? So these are the things Robert Southey's works, while not as a poetically original as Wordsworth. So if you compare his or him with Wordsworth, you would find out that Southey's prose was skilled, right? So highly skilled, highly skilled, and earning praised, earning earning what? Earning praise even from what? Baron. Right. So, later in life, you would find out that these radical opinions softened, and he became a more established figure. Eventually were appointed as a poet laurels in 1813. Got my point? Now, let's look at his poem, which is known as After Blenheim, 1789, 1798. What this poem is all about? Now, so the poem begins with so it was summer evening. So old Casper's work was done, and he, before his cottage door, was sitting in the sun, and by him, support on the green, his little grandchild well had. Wilhelmine. Now, here you would find out it is the first stanza, and the first stanza try to say that what? Now, it was a summer evening. It means the scene is set on a warm, right, pleasant evening during the summer. Old Casper's work was done. It means Casper, an elderly, what? Elderly man. Old Casper. Who is old Casper? An elderly man who has finished all his daily work and course. And if he, before his cottage door, was sitting in the sun, it means he is sitting outside his small house near the entrance and was sitting in the sun. Casper is enjoying the what? Sunlight, relaxing after a day of work. And by him, spotted on the green, is a little grandchild Wilhelmine. So, and by him, spotted on the green means on the grass nearby, someone is playing happily. Who he is? It is none other than Casper's young granddaughter, whose name is called as Wilhelmine. So, who is Wilhelmine? Is none other than the granddaughter of Casper, isn't it? So it is Casper's young granddaughter, Wilhelmine, who is playing joyfully on the grass. Now, the first stanza tries to give us the idea that the stanza paints a peaceful and homely picture of an elderly man relaxing outside his cottage while his little grandchild daughter, his little granddaughter, whose name is Wilhelmine, so she plays nearby on a sunny summer evening, and it sets a calm and warm tone for the story, right? Now, if we look at the next stanza said that what? Uh, she saw her brother Peter King rolled something large and round, which he beside the rivulet in playing there had found. He came to ask what he had found that was so large and smooth and round. Now she saw her brother Peter King, right? So she saw her brother Peter King roll something large and round, which he beside the rivulet and playing there had found. Uh, you can say that what um, in playing there had found that he came to ask what he had found, and that was so large and smooth and round. Now, in that case, she saw her brother Peterkin. So she refers to whom? She refers to Wilhelmine, right? Wilhelmine notices her brother, whose name is called as a Peterkin, nearby. So roll something large and round means Peterkin is pushing or rolling on objects that is big and circular in shape, right? Which is beside the rivulet. When we say that rivulet, which is beside the rivulet, it means he found this object near a small stream, right? So while playing, so which he beside the rivulet, it's generally known as a small stream, a small stream stream while playing. So they means here it is also said that in playing there had found. He came to ask what he had found that was so large and smooth and round. It indicates that the object was discovered by whom Peter Peterkin during his play near the water. He came to ask what he had found. So Peterkin approaches Wilhelmine. Who is Wilhelmine? Is the daughter? You can say that what sister you can say. So Peterkin approaches Wilhelmine to show her the object and ask her opinion, and that object is described as being big, large, big, and also you can say that smooth and perfectly round, isn't it? So the second stanza tries to tell us the second stanza, stanza two, tries to tell us that what Peterkin discovering something interesting while playing by a string. He is interested, curious, and brings it to Wilhelmine, highlighting the children's innocent curiosity and playful nature. Isn't it? That's what the second stanza tries to say. Then the third stanza, which is saying that old Casper took it from the boy, who stood expectant by, And then the old man shook his head, and with a natural sigh, "Does some poor fellow's skull," said he, "who fell in the great victory." So old Casper took it from the boy. It means Casper and takes the object that Peterkin found from him, then who stood expectant by. It means Peterkin is waiting, interested or curious to hear what Casper will say about it. Right? So, and then the old man shook his head. So Casper looks serious or saddened as he examines the object. And with a nature sigh, he sighs deeply. So he felt relaxed, showing that the sight brings a feeling of sadness or sorrow. So this some poor fellow's skull, said he. So Casper recognizes the object as a human skull and comments that must belong to someone who died, isn't it? So, who fell in a great victory? So he explains that what he explains that the person died in a past battle, ironically, uh, means called a great victory. Ironically called a great victory. So that's what is the third stanza tries to tell us. The third stanza tells us that what I find them in the garden, for there many hereabout. I find them in the garden, and for there is many hereabout. And often when I go to plough, the plowshare turns them out. For many thousand men, said he, were slain in that great victory. So this is the stanza four, and the stanza four tries to tell us means what I find them in the garden. It means called as Casper sage. He often finds such skulls, the skulls which we talk about or talk in the above. So I find them in the garden. It means Casper sage. He often finds such skulls while walking in this garden. For there many hereabout. It means he explains that there are many skulls which are buried, which are buried. Buried where? Buried in the area, a reminder of the past battle. And often when I go to plow, it means while plowing his field, plowing. So plowing generally we do when we cultivate the land. So while plowing his fields, we sometimes uncover these remains. So the plowshare turns them out. So the blade of the plow brings the buried skull to the surface. For many thousand men, said he, were slain in that great victory. It indicates that what means Casper tells that uh, the children that thousands of soldiers died in that battle. Casper tells the children what? That thousands of soldiers died in that battle, were slain in that great victory. It means called as he emphasizes that although it was called a great victory, it involved a huge loss of life. Right? It means the fourth stanza tries to give us the idea that the stanza highlights what the lasting consequences of war. Casper's claim, um, Casper's claim or stated that in a very calm manner that matter of fact tone shows how normal it has become for him to meet or to see reminders of past battles. So the poem begins to, criticize the idea of calling such violent events that great victories, which is nothing but called as a criticism, isn't it? Now, after that, in the next stanza, here you would find out this is, you can say that stanza 5. This is stanza 5. And what does this stanza 5 tries to tell us? It tells that now tell us what it was all about. Young Peterkin, young Peterkin, he cries. So, and Wilhelmine, little Wilhelmine looks up with the wonder waiting eyes. Now tell us all about the war and what um, you can say that now tell us um, about the war and what they fought each other for, right? These are the things which have been pointed here. If you go to the first one where it is stated, now tell us what was what it was, sorry, what it was all about, means Peterkin here ask Casper what now to explain what happened in the battle. So young Peterkin he cries. It means Peterkin eagerly and loudly asks his grandfather, showing his curiosity, right? So and the little Wilhelmine looks up. So in that case, Wilhelmine watches Casper attentively, waiting for his answer, right? With the wonder waiting guys. So with wonder waiting. So WWW, which is known as a alliteration. So the poet says that she is full of curiosity and amazement, waiting to understand the story with wonder waiting eyes. So So what does it say? With wonder-waiting eyes, it means full of curiosity and amazement. So she wants to understand the story. Now tell us about the war, right? Peterkin wants Casper to what explain everything about the battle and what they fought each other for. And he is especially curious about the region, why the people went to war and fought each other, right? So that's what it tries to tell us. So, all total, if you talk about that, the stanza shows the children's innocent curiosity about war. They do not yet understand its war is nothing but a horror, right? And they are eager to hear the story behind the battle and why so many people died, right? Now, in the next stanza, stanza 6, where it is stated, it was the English Casper cried who put the French to rout. But what they fought each other for, I could not well make out. But everybody said, quoth he, that it was a famous victory. So it was the English Casper cried. So Casper tells the children actually. Casper tells the children that the English were one side in the battle. It was the English Caspar Pratt who put the French to rout. It means called as the English defeated the French in the battle. But what they fought each other for? So Caspar admits that he doesn't really know why the two sides were fighting. I could not make I could not make out, or I could not well you can say that make out. I could not well make out. So this indicates that he could not understand the reason for the war clearly. But everybody said Kochi, means he could not understand the reason for the war clearly. People at the time called it is a big event, repeating what they had heard, right or not. It was a famous victory. It means even though the region was not clear, everyone praised it that what it as a great victory. So this stanza also shows the irony of war. Irony of war. So which is again another poetic device. So many people celebrated the battle as a famous victory, even though no one really know why it was fought. The poem criticizes who the meaningless glorification of war, right? Then, then the next one is called as this is the stanza 6. The next one is stanza 7. The stanza 7 said that my father lived at Blenheim then. You little stream hard by, they burnt his dwelling to the ground, and he was forced to fly. So with his wife and child he played, nor had he where to rest his head. Now, again, here you also find out the 6 lines in the seventh stanza. Although we find out in all these stanza consist of each stanza 6 lines. So in the seventh stanza where it is stated, my father lived at Blenheim then, which means called as a Casper tells the children. Casper tells the children that his father lived in Blenheim at the time of the battle. You little stream hard by. He points out a small stream nearby to indicate the location. It means he is trying to symbolize or point out what are the things near to his home, right? So that's why it indicates the location of their home. They burnt his dwelling to the ground, which means the soldiers set Casper's father's house on fire, destroying it completely. So they refer to whom? No, they refer to the soldiers. The soldiers did what? Now burnt his dwelling. His dwelling means his father's house. right? His father's house on fire, destroying it completely. And he was forced to fly. So, and for which what happened? His father had to run away to save himself. So, with his wife and child, he fled. He escaped with his family, his wife and child to protect them. Right or not? So, nor had he where to rest his head, which means called as they had no place to stay and were left homelessly after the attack, isn't it? So, again, this seventh stanza shows the harsh and personal consequences of war. Casper's family suffered greatly, losing their home and becoming homeless, highlighting the real human cost behind so called victories. Isn't it? Okay, fine. Let's move to the next one. The next stanza is all about stanza 8, where it is stated what? With fire, with fire and sword, with fire and sword, the country round was wasted far and wide. Many a children mother then, and newborn baby died. But things like that, must be at every famous victory. So this clearly stated that what with fire and sword, the country round. It means the soldiers destroyed the surrounding areas, burning villages, and using violence. Was wasted far and wide, which means called as the destruction affected a large area. Much of the land and homes were ruined, and many a children mothered them, and many a children mothered them, right? Um, Many women who had given birth suffered or died during this chaos. A newborn died. But things like that, must be at every famous victory, which is called as a Casper stated that tragically many newborn babies also died because of the war. Casper ironically comments that what such suffering he considered normal during wars. He points out the cruel irony that great victories are often celebrated despite the enormous or huge human suffering they cause. Right. So in that case, this stanza 8 explains what or emphasizes what now the tragic reality of war. While people celebrate victories, innocent lives, including women and children, are destroyed. The poem criticizes whom? Criticizes the glorification of war and the idea that human suffering is an uh, acceptable part of famous victory. Famous victory. Even the poet also says in the ninth stanza, what does it say in the ninth stanza? In ninth stanza, they say it was a shocking sight after the field was won, for many thousand bodies here lay rotting in the sun. But things like that, must be after famous victory. So they say that what they say it was a shocking sight, which means people said the aftermath of the battle was horrifying to see. So shocking sight means what? Shocking sight is called as horrifying means picture. So after the field was won, even though the battle was you can say declared a victory, the battlefield looked terrified, isn't it? So lay rotting in the sun, right? Thousands of soldiers had died during the battle. So, and even lay rotting in the sun, which means called as their bodies were left on the battleground, decaying under the sun. But things like that, must be, which means Casper sarcastically notes that such horrible scenes are considered normal after battles, right? Then we find out the next one which is called as a great praise the Duke. But before we go to that, means what we understood from the earlier stanza highlights the grim reality, serious reality of war. Even celebrated victories have behind immense death and destruction. The poem emphasizes the irony and tragedy of glorifying such events. Right now, if you go to the next one, it is stated great praises the Duke of great praises. The Duke of Marlborough own, right? So it is trying to tell us that what the Duke of Marlborough, a leader in the battle, the Duke of Marlborough, a leader in the battle, was widely praised for his role. And our good Prince Eugenie, our our good Prince Eugenie. So why it was a very wicked thing, right? So Prince Eugenie, another commander. So who is Prince Eugenie? Is nothing but another commander, also received praise for his victory. So then it is stated why it was. Toss is called as it was. Why it was a very wicked thing. So well-mind, the little girl reacts with the innocence and calls the battle cruel and wrong, right or not? So said little Wilmine, nay, nay, my little girl, Kochi. So in that case, this emphasizes that her comment comes from a child's sense of right and wrong. So Casper gently responds to her objection. So and it was a famous victory. So despite her innocence, you can say that despite her innocence, Casper repeats the ironic phrase, showing how society glorifies battles regarding of the, you can say that, uh, what you can say, regardless of the human cost, right? So in that case, if I look at this um, 10 stanza 10, so the stanza 10 contrasts the innocence of children with the way adults celebrate war, while the children see the battle as cruel. um, Adults focus on the so-called fame of the victory, right? Highlights the point or critic of glorifying war over human suffering, isn't it? Now, this is the last stanza where it is stated, and everybody praised the Duke, who this great fight did win, who this great fight did win. But what good came? But what good came of it at last? So, quoted little Peter King. So, why that I cannot tell, said he, but it was a famous victory. So, even the last stanza where it is stated, and everybody praised the Duke, it means people admired the Duke for winning the battle. Who this great fight did win? The Duke is recognized as the victory of the battle, right? So, here we are talking about the Duke, right? So, but what good came of it? Came of it at last. So, it is stated that Peter King, curious and innocent, asked whether the battle achieved anything useful or not. So, why? That I cannot tell, said he. So, Casper admits that he doesn't really know what benefits came from the battle, but it was a famous victory. So, despite the lack of real gains or knowledge, you can say that Casper repeats the phrase that highlighting the irony of glorifying a battle where the cost was mostly human suffering. So, all total, if you say this means the stanza emphasizes what the final stanza emphasizes the central irony of the poem. People celebrate, you can say that, famous victories without understanding their true purpose, true purpose of benefits. So the children's questions reflect innocent reasoning that or understanding that expresses the senselessness of war, isn't it? So, all total, if you observe that the poem means having with, you know, story inside it, and that's the reason it is known as a ballad. But beside ballad, the repetition, you can say that the repetition that you would find out, or the poetic devices present in the poem, is nothing but called as a repetition. The first one, which is known as a repetition, so which is stated a famous victory that you would find out many a time. It is it is repeated like, but it was a famous victory, it was a famous victory after a famous victory, and every famous victory. So, and a famous victory. So, like that, in most of the part, a famous victory is used. It emphasizes what? It emphasizes the irony between the glory of war and its horror. Second is known as imagery, right? Imagery. So you can say that clear description of rotting bodies, right? And skulls influence the serious reality of battle. Third is known as a dialogue. Dialogue. The conversation between Casper and the children creates a uh, you can say that word, narrative frame that expresses moral lesson. Then you would find out irony. So the contrast between the children's innocence and or children's thought, right? So, our children's understanding, you can say that wicked thing, and the adults' glorification highlights war's stupidity, right? Then, in the fifth one, you would find out ballad form. We know that ballad means called a story is written in the form of poem. So, when we say that ballad form, we can say that simple language, narrative storytelling and rhyme making the point accessible while expressing what? Expressing a moral message. So that's what you would find out the irony, imagery, then after dialogue, irony, and ballad. These are the things. Got my point? Um, Let me move to the title, which is appointed here. So when we talk about the title, so when we talk about the poem title called as After Blenheim, right? So the title, you can say that talks about the poem that after the famous victory, it tries to tell that what after the famous victory, after the famous victory or called as after the famous battle and emphasizes what the aftermath rather than the battle itself. So this point draws or this title draws attention to the consequences of consequences of war war on what? War on ordinary people rather than military strategy of heroism. So that's what you would find out uh, that why the title is justified, right? Now, if I talk about the some more information about this Robert Southey, so we can say that Robert Southey's poem After Blenheim is a ballad that reflects on the consequences of war. It focused on the aftermath of the Battle of Blenheim in 1704, a major fight in the war, right, of the Spanish succession, where English-led forces defeated the French and Bavarian armies. Bavarian, Bavarian, Bavarian means armies. So, where English-led forces defeated the French and Bavarian armies, instead of, you can say, describing the battle directly, Southey did what? Southey tells the story through a conversation or dialogue format. Um, so, between an old farmer, between whom? Between an old farmer, um, old Casper, old Casper, and his grandchildren, and his grandchildren, isn't it? So the poem begins actually what? The poem begins when Peter King, right? When Peter King, one of the children, right, finds something large and round in the ground. So Casper explains that it is a skull, one man or one of the many lying in the area. So hinting at the, you can say that death and destruction that occurred there, he describes the bodies on rotting in the sun, which shows the terrible human cost of the battle, right? Despite this, Casper repeatedly calls it a famous victory. That contrast makes readers think about the real purpose and value of war. When the children ask why the battle was fought, Casper doesn't give a clear explanation. He only repeats what? He only repeats that it was a famous victory, isn't it? So, like in many a time, it is huge. It was a famous victory. So, in that case, you would find out that it shows that ordinary people may not fully understand the reasons behind it war or behind wars. So the children notice the horror of the scene, and you can say that little Wilhelmine calls it a wicked things, reflecting a natural sense of morality that contrasts with the adult's purification of beauty. So the poem highlights actually several themes. It shows the horror and futility of war. Uh, you can also say that it uses vivid images like skulls and rotting bodies. So when you think about them, you see the picture. It questions the glory and authority often attached to war. Um, so, showing how history celebrates victories while ignoring suffering. It also contrasts innocence and experience as the children see the wrongness of war while adults accept it. Right? It has a fame. Finally, it reflects on memory and history, focusing on the consequences of battle rather than what? Rather than the fighting itself, isn't it? So, what Robert Southey, the poet, means did actually, he was an independent-minded young man who opposed a harsh discipline at school and once thought of, you can say that moving to America to create a utopian, like I said earlier, utopian community with his friend and Coleridge. Coleridge means S.T. Coleridge. So he became well known for his ballads, historical writings. Although he was not as original as poet like William Wordsworth, his approach was, you can say, highly skilled, right? So later in life, Southey became more conservative and was also appointed poet laureate in 1813. So Southey uses what? Southey uses several poetic devices in the poem, right? What is that? That called as a repetition, such as the line "A famous victory emphasizes the irony between glory and suffering." Imagery, like you can say that imagery, um, like rotting bodies and skulls, vividly shows the horror of war. Dialogue between Casper and the children that helps, convey moral lessons. Irony arises from the contrast between the children's innocent view and the adults, isn't it? Adults' purification. So the ballad from with its simple language and rhythms make the poem accessible while delivering several messages, right? So the title, okay, you can say that what the title mm, after Blenheim 1798 is feeling because the poem focuses on what? Focuses on what happened, focuses on what what happened, what happened. So after the battle, highlighting the effects of war on ordinary people rather than the fighting itself, right? So these are the couple of things that you would find out in the poem, right? Now, we have discussed the poem as well as the poem in a broadly manner, in a descriptively. Means each line we discuss. Also, we discuss the poet and about him as well as the poetic devices. Right. So I hope you like this poem as well as it means. Um, I'll also try to discuss all the questions which are given here. or given in this topic, and this will definitely help you, the student of ICSE. So, well, guys, let's go for the some of the questions of this topic after Blenheim, 1798, which was written by Robert Southey, and uh, we have couple of questions here. The first question is known as who was the old man? Who was the old man and who else were with him, and where were they? Now, if you talk about the first question, who was the old man? It was none other than Caspar, right? Uh, as for the poem, it is clearly stated that it was a summer evening. Old Caspar's work was done, and he, before his cottage door, was sitting in the sun. So, in that case, we can find out the first question, who was the old man? It's nothing but referring to the Caspar. And the next one is called as who else were with him. So we can say that his grandchildren, his grandchildren, his grandchildren. You can say that Peter King, Peter King, and we can say also Wilhelmine, Wilhelmine were with him. Isn't it? That is the second question answer. And the third question is, where were they? Now, like I pointed that it was a summer evening and old Casper's work was done and he, before his cottage door, was sitting in the sun. So in that case, we can say that uh, they were sitting before his cottage door in the sun. That is the first question. Now, moving to the second question. The second question stated, why did the old man shake his head and who found the skull? Right. So, why did the old man shake his head and who found the skull? So, the first answer is, why did the old man shake his head? Like we know that the line said, old Casper shook his head, and with a natural sigh, that line point out that um, why did the old man shake his head? Now, Casper shook his head. The old man is Casper, who shook his head. Uh, how? In a sadly manner. Why? Because the war had killed many innocent people for no real reason. So that was the, you can say that the reason. Why did the old man shake his head? So this old man shook his head sadly because he realized that how the war had killed many innocent people for no real reason. And who found the skull? So you can say that the skull was found by who? It is none other than Peter King, right? Peter Peter King, while playing near the stream. Now the third question is called as where was the skull found? The skull was found beside the rivulet, 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 right? Why does the speaker say that? Why does the speaker say that the skull was of some poor fellow? So, because it belonged to a soldier or innocent man who died in the war. The poet calls him a poor fellow because he was a victim of a meaningless war. It is stated in the line where it is stated beside the rivulet in playing there he found. So the answers of the first question is called where was the skull found? It was nothing but referring as a beside the rivulet where means Peter King was playing. Then the fourth question, how common were the skulls there? How common were the skulls there? We can say that what Scouts were very common in that area. Um, at which place many of them could be found. So Casper said that he often found them in the garden or while plowing the field. Right. So in that case, if we talk about again in the line of the poem where it is stated, often have found the same. Right. So in that case, we can draw the idea. Means where was the skull found? The skull was found beside the rivulet. Why does the speaker say that? It belonged to a soldier or innocent man who died in the war. Right. The poet calls him a poor fellow because he was a victim of a meaningless war. So fourth is called as how common were the skulls there. So you can say that the skulls were very common in that area. At which place many of them could be found? It was nothing but called as a garden, right? It was the garden or while blowing the field, isn't it? Now, the fifth question stated here, which victory is referred to in the extract? Which victory is referred to in the extract? And it is also said that who was responsible for that victory. Now, if I say that which victory is referred to in that extract, it is nothing but referring as a, you can say the battle of Blenheim, Blenheim, H-E-I-M, Blenheim. So you can say that 1704, right? So part of the war of the Spanish succession. So who was responsible for the victory? We can say that the victory was owned by Duke of Marlborough, Marlborough and Marlborough and Prince Eugene of Savoy. Prince Prince Eu Prince Eugene of Savoy, right? So that could be the answer. So if we look at the poem stated that great praise the Duke of Marlborough own and our good Prince Eugene. That line points out that the victory is referred to in the extract is the Battle of Blenheim, 1704, part of the War of the Spanish Succession. Second is called as who was responsible for the victory. It was none other than the victory was owned by Duke of Marlborough and Prince Eugene of Savoy. So these are the five questions. Let's move to some more questions. Yes. Now, this is from the extract two, and let's say that what does the extract two questions are. The sixth question stated about which topic is being discussed in the extract and who were Peterkin and Wilhelmine. Whom was Peterkin questioning? Isn't it? So again, which topic is being discussed in the extract? So we can say that they were discussing the cause, the cause of the war, the cause of the war in which many people died. Second is called who were Peterkin and Wilhelmine. So Peterkin and Wilhelmine were Casper's grandchildren of whom? Grandchildren of Casper, right? Casper. So you can say that what whom was Peterkin questioning? So Peterkin was questioning, um, then so you can say that to his grandfather, and what is his name? We can say that Casper, right? So it stated that now tell us what it was all about with wonder waiting eye, right? Then coming to the seven number question, in the context of the poem, what special importance or uh, of significance do the adjective young and little have? Young and little have. In the context of the poem, what special importance do the adjective young and little have? If I see that what um, they show, they show what? They show the innocence. They show the innocence because when we say that young and little, it means we are talking about innocence and purity, purity of the children. Second is called as means uh, what spatial significance do the adjective young and little have? We can find out the first one is called as innocence and purity. Why? Because their innocence helps the poet to show how pointless and cruel war is, isn't it? So when you say that what she saw her brother Peterkin roll something large and round, his little grandchild Wilhelmine, right? So the next question is question number eight. What is meant by wonder waiting eyes? So what is meant by wonder waiting eyes? And then after it is stated, which figure of speech is used here and why did Wilhelmine look up with such eyes? Now, when I say that what is meant by wonder waiting eyes, it means eyes full of what? Curiosity, right? It says that what? Curiosity, curiosity, um, and you can say that eagerness, eagerness, curiosity and eagerness. And which figure of speech used here? We can say that the figure of speech is known as a alliteration, as we can say wonder waiting. This is known as a alliteration. Alliteration means repetition of the sounds used at the beginning of the word conjugatively. So wonder waiting, it produces alliteration, isn't it? Next is called as why did Wilhelmine look up with such eyes? Wilhelmine looked up or looked like that because she wanted to know why the war happened. Isn't it? Okay. Question number 9. Who fought the battle? Who fought the battle? Was Peterkin given a satisfactory reply or not? And what does the reply show about a common man's attitude towards, you can say that war? Now, if I talk about the first question, who fought the battle? Who fought the battle? The battle was fought between the English and the French forces. English, English, and French French forces, right? So that is the first question. Who fought the battle? English and French. Second is called as was Peterkin given a satisfactory reply or not? So yes, if we talk about that, means that this question asked, answer should be Peterkin was not given a clear reply. Peterkin uh, could not give a clear reply. That could be the answer. Then third is called, so what does the reply show about a common man's attitude towards means war? We can say that this shows the ordinary people accept what? Do not give a clear reply, right? And third is called as a was Peterkin given a satisfactory reply or not? Means you can say that no, Peterkin was not given a clear reply. And does the reply show about a common man's attitude toward means war? So you can say that this show that ordinary people accept that what? Where it is gone. Just a minute. Okay. So we can say that what means this shows that ordinary people, ordinary people accept war blindly without questioning its cause. Right? Now, look at the question number 10. The question number 10 stated, give a brief character sketch of Casper. If I say that give a brief character sketch of Casper, we can say that Casper was a what? First thing it's called as a Casper was a farmer. That is the one. And a loving grandfather. Then you can say that he was sorrowful about war, but still accepted it as something normal, right? Sorrowful. So why sorrowful? Because sorrowful about war, but still accepted it as something normal. Then we can also go for the fourth one. He represents the common man's ignorance and helplessness. So he exactly showed the what means common man's ignorance, and you can say helplessness, isn't it? So these are the answer of extract two. Let's move to the next extract. So the third extract, which is asking here, which country is referred so which country is referred to in the extract and what is meant by was wasted far and wide, right? So which country is referred to in the extract and what is meant by was wasted far and wide? Now, if I say that which country, we can say that it refers to the country as Germany, right? Which is known as Blenheim, or you can say Blindham, right? So second is called as a what is it meant by was vested far and wide. Now, when you say that was vested far and wide, it means that the war caused huge destruction, huge destruction and damage. Huge destruction and damage. So that is what you would draw. Which country is referred to in the extract? Germany, Blenheim and Blenheim or Blenheim. What is meant by was wasted far and wide? It's called as a huge destruction and damage. Now, coming to the next question of extract 3, it asks what did the speaker say about the effects of the battle? Effects of the battle on his own family. Now, if we say that what means the speaker, which who is known as a Casper's father or Casper, means about the effect of the battle on his own family. So we can say that Casper's father it is stated in the line, they burnt his dwelling to the ground and he was forced to fly. So it stated that what the speaker said about the effects of the battle on his family is what Casper's family who lived near the stream, near the stream, near the stream in Blenheim, Blenheim, right? And means you can say that during the war their house was burnt down and his family was forced to flee, right, becoming homeless. That was the effect you can point out, right. Now moving to the third question, what is meant by a childing mother? Why do you think the poet specifically point out that many a childing mother, a newborn baby, died. Now, when I say that, what is meant by a childing mother? It means called as a pregnant mother or pregnant woman. Pregnant woman. That's what a childing mother could refer to. Second is called as why do you think the poet specifically point out that many a childing mother, newborn baby died because the poet points out or called as points this out to show the cruelty and the tragedy of war, tragedy of tragedy of war, where even unborn and newborn babies died. Right or not? Now, coming to the question number um, 4, or you can say that, sorry, this is indicating 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So 14 number question asked here, what do the last two lines in the extract tell you about the um, attitude of the speaker towards the, you can say that towards the event that he is narrating, and means what are your feelings for the speaker. Now if I talk about that, Casper accept, what do the last two lines in the extract tell you? Now when you say that the last two lines in the extract that tells us about the attitude of the speaker, like where we can say Casper accept the suffering as something natural in war. So suffering is something which is natural in war. Second is called as he doesn't question it, right? So he feels pity for him because he was made to believe what deaths were necessary, isn't it? So hence we can say that means question number 14, what do the last two lines in the extract tell you about the attitude speaker towards? It is nothing but called as a means uh, he accepts the suffering as something natural in war and he doesn't question it and he feels pity for him because he was made to believe war deaths were necessary. Fine. So next is called as a 15. You can say that the 15 number question by referring to incident in the poem state how after Blenheim can be said to be an anti-war poem, right? Now when we say that the poem that shows what that shows the death of innocent people, death of innocent innocent people, isn't it? Innocent people. So destruction of homes, the death of pregnant women and babies, and rotting bodies, right? All this is called nothing but a a famous victory. Famous victory. So in that case, when you say famous victory, and where you also say in the opposite that called as a destruction of home, innocent people, death of innocent people, death of pregnant women and babies and rotting babies. So this is really nothing but a kind of a sarcastic or sarcastically comment, right? So which criticizes war, right? So in that case, we can find out by referring to incidents in the poem. So let's state how after Blenheim can be said to be an anti-war poem, because we understood that how death of innocent, destruction of homes, death of pregnant women and babies and rotting bodies, and all this is nothing but called as a famous victory, sarcastically, which criticizes the war, right? Now, coming to the next part, next extract. Okay, so this is the extract 4. The fourth extract stated about question number 16 to 20. So 16 said, to whom does they in the extract refer? Right? To whom does they in the extract refer? And why do you think the sight was shocking even when the battle was on? Now, when we say that to whom does they in the extract refers to, you can say that here it is stated, no, and many thousand bodies here lay rotting in the sun. So here they refer to whom? Refer to the people who described the battle's aftermath. So they describe the means they are the people who describe the battle's aftermath. Second is called as why do you think this sight was shocking even when the battle was on? We can say the sight was shocking. Now, why? Because thousands of dead bodies lay rotting, even though it was called a victory, isn't it? So next is question number 17. Which famous victory is being referred to in the extract, right? Um, and you can say that who were responsible for it. Now, when you say that, means which famous victory is being referred to? So here, famous victory is referring to Battle of Battle of Blenheim, Blenheim, so 1704, and it was owned by whom? Owned by Duke of Marlborough and Prince Eugene, right? Who was responsible for the victory? We can say that Duke of Marlborough and Prince Eugene. Now, question number 18, what is the tone of the last two lines of the extract? So, what is the tone of the last two lines of the extract, and what does the poet want to convey in this line? Now, if I say the first question, what is the tone of the last two lines of the extract? We can say the tone is nothing but called as ironical and sarcastic. Ironical and sarcastic. If I talk about ironical, it means called as two different ideas, one that the author wants to convey and another that the reader understand. And second is called as a sarcastic. It points out nothing but the criticism, isn't it? So that is what you would find out the tone of the last two lines of the extract point out. Uh, then after, if you talk about the second question, what does the poet want to convey in these lines? The poet wants to show that war is nothing but called as a useless. War is useless, and also you can say that destructive. Useless and destructive, even if called a victory. That is what you can find out the irony. Next is called as what was the occupation of the speaker of these lines. So you can say that the speaker is none other than Casper. Casper. And if I talk about the occupation of the speaker of these lines, so Casper was a farmer. Casper was a farmer. So, and how do you know that? Or how do you know about its occupation? We can say that he said he often found the skulls while plowing the field. He mentioned the word called as plowing the field, right? So in that case, we can draw the idea that as the speaker tells about plowing, it means it can be assumed that he was a farmer. Now, question number 20, state clearly how has the poet created an atmosphere of the speaker of these lines. So, sorry, state clearly how has the poet created an atmosphere of a devastation caused by war, right? So, in the poem. Now, if I say that how the poet created an atmosphere of destruction caused by war in the poem, because when you say a couple of answers which are given in the poem that can be drawn, first it's called as a skulls lying in fields, skulls lying in fields. Second is called as a homes burnt, homes burnt, and families homeless. Third is nothing but called as a death of mothers and babies, death of mothers and babies bodies, right? So babies and thousands of rotting bodies. So all this paints a picture of you can say that complete devastation. So we can say that they burnt each dwelling to the ground. Hope you understood this. Moving to the next extract. The next extracts is 5, and in this extract it is given a question: Who was Duke of? So, yeah. So the question is called as Who was Duke of Marlborough? Who was Duke of Marlborough? So we can say that he was English general who led the British Army. Who led the British Army? Right. Second is called as why did he win great praise? He won great praise because he defeated the French force. Defeated the French force. French force. French force. Isn't it? So then third yeah, 23 is called as what thing according to Wilhelmine was wicked? What thing according to Wilhelmine was wicked? Why does the poet, or you can say that um, sorry, I missed out the next one, 22, or earlier one. Who was Prince Eugene and why does the poet referring him to um, as our, you can say that good Prince Eugene? Now, if you say that who was Prince Eugene, the answer is called as a Prince Eugene was an Austrian general, Austrian general, right? And if I say that he was an Austrian general who fought with the Marlborough, Marlborough, right. Second is called as why does the poet refer to him as good Prince Eugene? The poet uses are good. It means nothing but a called as a sarcastic comment, sarcastically, because he too caused destruction through praised as a hero. Therefore, when you say that who was Prince Eugene, he was an Australian general who fought with Marlborough. And why does the poet referring him as good Prince Eugene? Because it is a sarcastic comment, because he too caused destruction through praised as a hero. Then coming to the 23, what thing according to Wilhelmine was wicked? Wilhelmine thought killing people in war was wicked. So second is called as do you agree with her comment? Give reason to support your answer. Now obviously we can say that yes, it is true because innocent people suffer while rulers boast about victories. Isn't it? That's what happened actually. 24, state briefly the moral of the poem after Blenheim. So when I say that moral of the poem, I can say that the poem teaches that war only causes what? War only causes death, pain, and destruction. Death, pain, and destruction. So victories are meaningless if they bring only suffering. So that is the moral of the poem we can draw. Then the last one, 25. What according to you What, according to you, is the relevance of the poem mm, in the contemporary times? Give reason to support your answer. Now, when I said that, according to you, what is the relevance of the poem? So I can say the poem is still relevant because even today, what's cause what? Loss of innocent lives, innocent lives. And the politicians call it nothing but called as a collateral damage. Collateral damage, isn't it? The poem actually reminds us that war never truly benefits common people. So that's why we can say that relevance of the poem is nothing but called as a loss of innocent life, and politicians call it collateral damage, right? So that's what is the one's complete five extract, and each extract carries nothing but a five means questions, and all these means 25 questions answer has been given here, right? I hope you understood this. That's all. Thank you.